For today, I'm going to show you how to make a stencil in Cricut Design Space. This is the version 7.6.172, so it may differ a little bit in future updates. So to start out, we'll do a text as a stencil. That tends to be, a lot of people like to do text and stencils. We'll just do a little logo here. So let's say I want to make this into a stencil to put on something. So I want the K would be the section I want to put the paint. So I want that to be cut out. And right now, the K would be the solid thing. So what we'd have to do is go to shapes and pick a shape. You could do the square, you could do a circle, whichever one you want. Now, just so we can see what we're doing, I'm going to go up to Arrange and send that square to the back so we can see our logo. It's kind of a big section. We don't need a square quite that big. I'm going to make it a little bit rectangular. I just clicked off the lock button so that way it's free to move around. That looks good. Now, just for myself, you don't have to do it. I'm going to center our logo. Actually, it looks like I'm gonna go here and take off this space here. There we go. You could also, if you wanted this all to be arranged in center, you could do that as well. So we'll put it on a square and rectangle. We're going to select both. I held the shift to click both. You could also drag to select both, or you could go over here and in the side and hit shift and select both. All methods work, and we'll go over to Align and we'll just center everything so it looks nice when it's cut out. Now that we have that, we'll select both the letters and the rectangle, and we are going to hit Slice. It might take just a few minutes. That blink means it's done, and you can even see slice results in the right hand side. So we'll pull this away, and that is what we want. There's two extras of these that we can just delete. So now this is our stencil. This K will be the cutout section, all this white, and we'll have a very nice stencil. The only issue is with letters. If this D is cut out, this center of it will be lost. So in order to not lose the center, we'll go over to our shapes. I'm going to make it a sliver, so I want to not have a square. We just drag it and make it nice and small. Make it as big or little as you want, but just make a little tiny rectangle. And we will put it right over a D like that, so it's touching the outside and the inside piece that was going to get lost. So now we want to go up, right click, duplicate, and we'll put it on our E as well, because we don't want to lose that center. Right click, duplicate. We need one for our G, one for our D, and another one for our A. Now, I did it at the bottom of the A instead of the top, so I didn't have to worry about hitting this top part of the A, but you could have had it coming out off to the side here. We could put another one here at the D. I might do one more here for the big D, just because it's a bigger area so we don't lose it. The E and the A are pretty small, that one would be enough. The D and G, you could do a second one if you want, it's up to you. Now, we need to do one more step to connect all this. So I'm going to select everything, and hit weld. When we do that, notice those lines disappear and everything is connected. So it kind of is like a stencil look to it. If you don't like that look, once you make it and cut it all out, you lay down your stencil just like this, stencil it in, dab your paint in, and then just go back in with a thin paintbrush and just cover that little tiny spot on the letters, and then you won't see that. So now all we have to do is make it. Also, don't forget to pay attention to your sizes if you want your design to be a certain size. This is probably a pretty big stencil. If you don't want to distort your design, make sure your size button is on the lock. That's open and that's lock. If it's on the lock, then you can size it proportionately. If this is open, when you go to size it, it'll distort the image. Here I am testing out some of my stencils I just made. I am using an acetate sheet. That's what I cut my stencils out of with a fine point blade on my Cricut machine. And you can use vinyl or the stencil vinyl, but those are not permanent. This is a thicker plastic, and so I can reuse the stencil. I just clean it off with some water, maybe a little bit of soap, but I recommend doing that before the paint dries, otherwise it's harder to clean. But if there's dry paint on it, it wasn't a big deal to me. I tried cutting a stencil plastic that was about a 0.2 inch thick that I got from Joann Fabrics, but it ended up being too thick for my Cricut Maker to cut. I used both the fine point blade and a deep point blade, did several tests with it, and several passes and max power with no success. I even tried it in a glow forge, but that just seemed to melt the plastic, even using several different settings. If you'd like to see those tests, then please visit knfdesign.com. I wrote about all my different tests there, and I'll link that down below. You can also use a little bit thicker plastic, about a 0.007 thick clear plastic, to make your stencils if you want something a little bit more sturdy than the acetate, and that should also work well. Also, if you'd like to see how to insert the blade into a new deep point blade, I have a little clip right after this that'll show that for you. I'm just testing these stencils. Normally I would do a dabbing motion versus this swiping painting motion, and they will come out a little bit cleaner, but I was just doing some really quick tests to see what style I like. When you get a new blade, first you have to take off the tip, and that will be your blade. And then you press this button down It's hard to see since it's black, but then put it in. Oops. And there's your blade. I'm just placing some of the stencils over my bird to see which one I like the best. I really like this flower one I made, and I actually used it in another project, my Easter egg banner, which you can see here, and it turns out really well. I'll link this post below if you'd like to see how I made it. You can see I got a little bit of paint on the edges, so this time I'm going to be trying the craft bond to help hold my stencil down so it'll be easier and won't bleed. And here's the shaker I also made with that same design. And then this bird shape is actually the cutout inside from this bird shaker that I did. I'm going to spray this craft bond to help my stencil stay on better. I have to wait 3 to 5 minutes after spraying it before applying my stencil, so it will be removable. I'm going to try not using the spray adhesive to see how the difference looks on the wing versus the bird. And I'm going to be using this light blue. I recommend an up and down motion, and I like the stiff bristles for this. probably best not to get too much paint on your paintbrush as well, which I did get a little bit more than I wanted. Okay, we've waited our time, so it should be sticky. We waited about a little over 3 minutes. If you want a permanent bond, then you have to apply your design within 15 seconds of applying the spray. But if you just want it to stick without the permanent, then you have to wait 3 to 5 minutes. Looks like it's holding it well, which is nice, so I don't have to hold it with my fingers, which also keeps my fingers a little bit cleaner. Again, I'm using a stiff bristle paintbrush. This is easier than the other way without the adhesive, but it's doable without the adhesive. And a lot faster. Just holding it down so it doesn't jump as I dab my brush up and down. Comes up nice and easily. And then once it's dry, we'll glue the wing on. To clean my stencil, I'm just going to use a little bit of soap and water, just hand soap. Some of the white didn't come off from the last time, and I think that's fine. The paint will dry and it won't mess up the next project, so I'm not too concerned about that. But if you really, like my blue's already dry, if you really want, you can scrub it a little bit harder, but I'm just kind of rinsing it off. Here is our bird, and I'm just going to glue his little wing on. You can use a variety of different glue. This is just some tacky glue. You could use wood glue, super glue, Gorilla Glue. Should all work fine. And there's our piece. Here is what our bird looks like, all finished. You can also put a piece of wood on the back, like the Jenga block piece or something, so you could stay up and put them on a tier tray. I actually ended up, this bird is the inside piece out of our shaker here that we cut earlier. I'll link that blog post down below so you can see how to make that, but I then just cut a smaller wing to fit on him. Figured I already had the shape, might as well do something with it. And I like how they turned out. If you would like more in-depth instructions and a list of supplies, please visit my website, knfdesign.com. The link will also be in the description below. I hope you like this craft, and don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help my channel. Thanks and happy crafting!
Ta var till kant.